Welcome to The Legacy Shift, the podcast for cycle-breaking mothers and conscious leaders raising liberated, legacy-building children. I'm your host, Patricia Abdallah, TEDx speaker, generational healing guide, and mother of four on a mission to end inherited pain and parent with power. Each week, we'll dismantle generational patterns, reclaim your truth, and anchor into a new legacy, one that begins with you. You won't find perfection here, just healing, truth-telling, and the sacred work of becoming the parent your children don't need to heal from. Let's break the cycle together. Welcome to episode 1 of the Legacy Shift podcast. I am so excited to share my journey today on my personal journey of motherhood, what generational healing is and why it's so important, and take you along a little bit about why I wanted to start this podcast, why I feel like this is a big movement that needs to happen right now, and why conscious parenting is world-changing work. So let's jump into today's first episode. So first and foremost, I am a mother of 4 wonderful young boys. My motherhood journey began in 2015 with my first son being born. I currently have 4 boys, and it is just the most amazing time for me. I love being a mom. I love being able to nurture them. I love being able to share in their joys, but also support them when their emotions are running high or when they're having challenges. I love every component of being a mother. Not to say that it's easy, but I do really enjoy being a mother, and I feel like it's my sole passion to be a mom to these wonderful beings and help nurture them into wonderful men as they grow. So my motherhood journey, like I said, began in 2015 when my first son was born, and I remember holding him in my arms at that moment and just making him a promise that I will always love him. I will always be there for him, and I will make change. What I realized, though, that in order to make change, I needed to change. And so I began healing in that moment in 2015. Now, I didn't have a word for it then. I didn't know what I was doing. I just felt like I was doing things different. I was doing things different than the way my mother did things, my sister did things. I was doing things different than the way my husband's family did things. And there was judgment there, and there was a lot of opinions about how I was doing things. And I didn't have a word for it, but now I understand that what I was doing is generational healing. And I'm so grateful that I was able to go on this generational healing journey over the last 10 years, and I continue to go on this journey as time goes on. So after my first son was born, or as I was pregnant with my first son, there's things I was doing differently. Things like even from having a midwife opposed to an OB. That was very new for both sides of the family. Or when I was introducing foods to my firstborn son for the first time, I was introducing them in a different way and than the typical norm. And so there was a lot of judgment that I had to overcome. But also, there was a lot of experience there that I was able to gain. So, as my 10 years of motherhood has come into fruition, I've been able to really feel like I am showing up as an amazing mom. So, 10 years ago, there was still that I felt like I had to fit in. Now, 10 years later, after having 4 sons, I am very much, I'm doing things the way that my intuition and my feeling is telling me to do. And I think that's very important and very powerful in conscious parenting. So before I go a little bit more into my story, I just want to touch like, what is generational healing? I'm throwing this term out there. Is it a term that's well known? Not necessarily. So what generational healing is generational healing is when you, as a person, conscious parent, decide that you want to change patterns, you want to change beliefs, you want to change systems in what a family looks like, or in how you're reacting or behaving or nurturing your children. different from previous generations to change future generations. And my saying is if you're doing generational healing, you're creating new legacy. You are being so powerful in creating a new legacy as a parent. And that is just so amazing and so transformational to think that today's parents have the ability to heal and to change past generations and to heal and change future generations. So I'll say it once, I'll say it again, probably several different times in my podcast, but what we don't heal, we pass on. What we don't heal, we pass on. And it is so important for parents to really wake up and look at, is what I'm doing something that is just on auto response, or is what I'm doing going to make impact and change in the future? So that is what generational healing is. I am so, so, so passionate about it as my years of parenting have developed. And I would say that I really recognized what I was doing when I was 17 weeks pregnant with my fourth child. So there was this thing that had happened in my family, an event that had happened with me and my older sister, where we got into an argument. And in that argument, it was a screaming match argument. It was in front of all the kids. I feel really unwell about that component. However, in that argument, I do remember saying in this argument, I am not the same as you and I do things differently. And I had never, ever, ever, ever declared this before. I had never declared this before in my family. I knew I was doing differently. I knew I was doing things different. I knew in a private conversation without really showing the world that I was being different. But in that moment, when I declared out loud in front of everybody, I am different. I do not parent the way you do. Something in me clicked. Something in me clicked so fast that I was like, oh, this is what I am supposed to do. I am supposed to lead a movement of generational healing. I am supposed to speak about generational healing. I'm supposed to help other parents understand that it's okay to make change and it's okay to be different and it's okay to heal. It's good to heal, and conscious parenting is healing. So in that moment when I was 17 weeks pregnant with my fourth child and I declared this in front of everybody, it was a big aha moment, but I was also very sad because I knew that there was a really big gap between how I do things and how my family has always done things. And so I sat with it for a while, what I was going to do with this information. At that time, I still had a technology company in real estate technology that I was trying to get growing and up and running after 5 years. But just before my fourth son was born, I decided to close that company and really sit with, what is my next move? What is the next move that's best for me? What is my soul speaking to? What is it that I really want to do? And so I sat with it for several months. I had my fourth son in July of 2024, and I sat with it for several months. I allowed myself, first of all, time to heal. I allowed myself to get out of a freeze response mode, which I was in due to being the technology company and different things like that, as well as personal matters that were going on in my personal life. So I was in this freeze mode, but I allowed myself to heal my nervous system. And in that healing of my nervous system, I noticed my children were able to be calmer in their responses. I noticed my children started being more present in their conversations with me. I noticed my family unit, my husband and my four kids and I, that we were able to really cohesively begin coming together. And I looked at this and I said, well, I'm healing my nervous system. And I'm healing generational patterns from allowing my children space, from allowing my children an opportunity to be who they are and not putting expectations on them, not putting extra stipulations on them. I allow my children to express who they are. I allow my children to have big emotions. I allow my children to just allow themselves to feel and to experience life the way what they want to experience it. So that being said, all of this, I was looking at this and I said, well, why is this happening? Why is this happening? And I allowed myself on that kind of postpartum journey of being with my fourth child, I allowed myself to slow down, really slow down and look at myself and say, what is it that is my passion? And I realized it's being the mother that is changing. This is my passion. I'm changing generational patterns, and so transformational and empowering for me. And I wanted to be able to, in this moment, I wanted to be able to share this with the whole wide world. So this was in April of 2025. I wanted to start sharing this with the whole wide world. And I started revamping my Instagram and figuring out what I wanted my business to look like, and things like that. And it's something that is needed in today's society, but that's not very well known, because typically a lot of people who are in the healing of generational patterns, sometimes they're discarded from their family. They're not as communicated with anymore. They're not as involved with their extra extended family. And that's kind of, just what we're in. But I want to be able to provide a space for those people who are looking to make change and to make the generational pattern changes and generational healing, and change the way that things have always been done and create new legacy. I want to be able to provide a community and an environment where it's safe to do that, and to safe to have conversations, and where parents feel supported in that. So this is where I am now speaking about generational healing a little bit more. I struggle with, why am I the one who had to heal? Why am I the one who is the one changing these legacies and changing these patterns? Why am I the one to stop those old patterns? Why am I the one to have to face the adversity? And these are questions that come up in healing quite often. And I want to be there to support the parents who are also wondering the same thing. So in this episode, it's kind of a brief overview of how I got here in my generational healing journey. There will be unpacking different stories and different things as future episodes go on. And in future episodes, I will break down myths, parenting tactics, how to heal, more shifts that you can make, all of the above. And I also am hoping to bring on several different wonderful guests that we can have conversations with, and more about stories about my generational healing journey, which I hope will impact and support all of the other parents that are going through the exact same thing. So I am so happy if you're here listening to this podcast. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you being here, being present, being open to the concept of healing, and being a conscious parent, because that's not easy. It's actually one of the most hardest things that a parent can do, is being conscious and being aware. So until the next episode, thank you so much for being here. If this episode spoke to your soul, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps more cycle breakers like you find this movement. And if you're ready to go deeper, I have a special gift for you. The Legacy Reset mini course I'm offering you completely free. This is valued at $297. Inside, you'll learn the exact steps to start breaking generational cycles and resetting your family's legacy. You can grab it now through the link in the show notes. You'll also find my free guide, Breaking the Cycle, 7 Shifts Every Conscious Parent Must Make. Until next time, keep healing, keep leading, and keep rewriting the story for generations to come.